I used to like a longer intro because it gave me more time to like prep for like
You're the one that made me make a shorter intro.
Yeah, because everybody says like you really don't want a long intro because people tune out if you have a long intro. I see my sister Teresa's in the chat tonight. My mom's probably Teresa's in. My mom's probably listening. So how long ago was the last time you were on? Like a year ago, right?
Almost a year.
Probably like 8 or 9 months ago.
Yeah, like 8 or 9 months ago. So my sister Krissy came on like 8 or 9 months ago, and she was discerning her vocation at that point. So did you even go to the Passionist yet? Had you visited them?
I think when I came on last, I went there just for the come and see, and
apply for your
aspirancy. I think I was just accepted into aspirancy.
Okay.
Yep, that sounds right.
Yeah, so we that show we set up a give send go for her. Is my mom. So we set up a give send go for her because she had 11,000 in school debt, and then all of a sudden Joe Biden passed that thing where she thought her school debt was going to be canceled, and she almost returned everybody's money, and then that thing fell through, and Joe Biden never paid off the school debt. So she went for her. You went for your aspirancy, right?
Yeah. So I mean, technically, I'm still an aspirancy, but I'm awaiting. I have a lot of confidence that I'll be accepted into postulancy, but I'll find out very shortly.
Okay. So yeah. So she still has a little ways to go on that give, send, go, but I wanted to bring her back on because she told me a bunch of really good stories when she came home. But because we probably have a ton of new people listening that weren't here last time, I want to actually just take a step back and actually, Chris, like, where were you before this whole journey began? Like, where were you in your life when all of a sudden you said, okay, I need to discern a vocation?
Okay. Well, first off, for everyone who's watching, we do have another video that goes a little bit more in detail, but I'm just going to give like a quick synopsis.
I'll link that video for everyone. So,
okay. So before I was discerning with them, I would say
wait. Your discernment retreat friend from California is watching. God bless you. I'm still praying for you. Okay.
So a little bit before I was discerning religious life, I was actually engaged, and before the engagement, I had my conversion, and just little seeds were being planted that the Lord was just drawing me more and more towards religious life. And I was engaged, but when I became engaged, I ended up, like, that pull just became even stronger towards religious life. So I ended up calling off the engagement and starting my discernment with religious life. And when I first started, my thought was like, this is great, but like, no, for cloistered life, like, there's no way I can't do that. Like, that's not even a question. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm too family oriented. I can't go without my family. And so it's
so what was the first place you visited?
So the first,
like, you do those come and see visits, right?
Yeah. So when I first started actually really discerning specific religious orders, it was during COVID. So a lot, like, I couldn't actually visit any of them. So I did 2 like online virtual come and sees. And one of them was with, I always forget their name, but the Franciscan, right? TOR.
Yeah. So those are the sisters at Franciscan University, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, it didn't really go too far. That was all that I did with them. And then I did a virtual one with the SALT community, Society of Our Lady of the Most Holy Trinity. And then I came back in person for a come and see with them. And when I left with them, my thought was that it felt very comfortable, but almost a little too comfortable. Like, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to, like, grow. Like, I just felt like it was a continuation of what I was already doing. And my words to the vocation directress was that I really wanted to see like I had to experience cloistered life because I would always be wondering if I was called to that. But I didn't actually think that I would be called to it, but I just felt like I needed to, just so I could say that I did that and to be sure.
So the Salt community, what were they, missionary nuns, or so
Yeah.
they were mission? So you'd have been going like overseas and like helping, maybe even like going to Africa or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, but they don't have total devotion to prayer because they're missionaries and they're doing things a lot of time, right?
Well, I mean, they every religious order has dedication to prayer. It's just like with the cloistered ones, like that is their apostolate, is to pray. Like where the apostolate of like the more active ones, they have a bunch of different apostolates.
Okay, so you apply for your aspirancy at the Passionist nuns in Kentucky. Now, when you you took like short little visits there before this most recent visit, and every time you went, you had COVID one time, or like you had insane things happen to you when you went.
Yes.
So like take us through just those couple of quick little journeys when you went.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So the very first during this last year, during aspirancy, you go there for live-in visits where you actually get to live in the cloister, which that doesn't always happen with cloister communities, but that's how they do it with the Passionists. And so I would go there every other month, and I would stay there for about a week or two. And so my first visit there, I ended up like the first night getting 103-degree fever and finding out that I had COVID. And so the
first night you were there.
Yeah. So my first, I guess like I had that half day of being able to see them. And then the next 5 days I was in complete isolation and I didn't even know them at the time. And
like, can you imagine that? You have this whole visit planned out. You go to Kentucky and you get there and you're in isolation. Now, how long was that visit for?
Wait, so isolation and you're in your cell, there's no TV, there's nothing in there for you, and like when you're sick you can't even really read, so I was just like
laying in bed shivering.
Yeah, so that was interesting,
and it was scary too. Like you got pretty bad at one point while you were there. Like she didn't have an easy run at COVID while she was there. It was like, you wound up in the hospital, right?
No, not that time. No,
not that time. Not that time. No, it was the other time.
no times while I was in the when I was in there.
Okay, so now how long were you there for that visit?
So that visit I was there for 12 days.
Okay, so now 5 of them you were in your cell and couldn't have contact with anybody.
And then the whole rest of my time there, I had a mask on, except for the very last day.
Oh my gosh. But so that first visit was rough.
It was rough, but so like honestly, like what was going through my head while I was in there, I was just like, oh man, what are they thinking? Like they're probably thinking this is a bad sign. And like, but then I was just like, you have 5 days in isolation to let your thoughts kind of go. And I like by the end of it, when I finally got out, I was just like,
do you have any idea how crazy Anthony would be after 5 days alone in a room?
I'm sorry, say that again?
He said, do you know what?
Have any idea how crazy Anthony would be after 5 days alone in a room?
I can't do 2 hours in the car on the way home in traffic without like some kind of noise on. Like I could do in the morning. So when I drive into work in the morning, I could do silence. But once my day starts, my mind starts going. Like I don't know. I can't sit still. Like even tonight before the show, my mind was just racing and going crazy. So yeah, it is challenging, but like in the mornings, I'm okay. When I first wake up, I actually have like some of my deepest like revelations with God on my ride in the morning when I'm just first waking up, and like that's the best time for me to pray. But after I'm like at the confusion of work, it's really difficult for me. Okay, so that was your first visit. Now how long is your second visit for?
So the rest of them are all like
12-day visits, like that, 10 or 12-day visits. Now, almost every time you go, you have an incident like that, though, right? Where you get sick or somebody else gets sick, or.
So the second time I went there, I had I had a sinus infection right before I came, and so it actually turned into an ear infection, and so so I was at the tail end of a sinus infection, and I had an ear infection. I couldn't hear out of my left ear the entire time I was there.
Oh my gosh.
And like, I don't know if anyone's experienced that, but it's like very annoying.
So she like these are spiritual attacks in some way. Like I know they're physical, but it's almost like the devil didn't want you to even experience this place while she's there, right? Like you had to feel like that, right?
Most people would, but like for me, I was like, wow, this is what it is to be a passionist. Like for me, it was like for most people, they would be like, I don't like, I'll take this as a sign that I'm not being called to it. And if it was with like a different community, I probably would have thought the same. But because it was with the Passionists, it was like it was a sign of approval for me.
So what's unique about the Passionists that you loved? Like, what is their charism? They basically, it's meditating on the passion.
Yeah, it's meditating on the passion and spreading devotion of it, and like their main charism is to stand at the foot of the cross with Mary, to compassionate Jesus in his passion and to welcome others to the foot of the cross.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. For those who followed through the School of Jesus Crucified series through Lent, that was written by a Passionist. So.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So now this last time you went, this was what a 3-month stretch?
Yes.
So when did you go? You went March 1st?
Yeah, so in the beginning, you come every other month for like a week or two, and then at the very end of aspirancy, you go for 3 months. So I was there right at the start of Lent, and then I was there for 3 months from then. So I think I got there actually I think I was a day or two into Lent. So I think it was like February 23rd when I got there, and I stayed until May 25th.
That had to be intense for Lent.
Yeah, so she's there for all of Lent. Now, did you talk to anyone like did you talk to Mom while you were there?
I got 2 phone calls, but during Lent, you're not allowed to have any phone calls and I can write I could not write letters to anyone, but they could write letters to me during Lent.
So she was able to receive letters, but she wasn't able to respond to anything during Lent. Okay, so now what was this last time like? So you get there day 2 of Lent. Did you know what to expect when you were going? Is it different from those mini trips you did, those 10, 12-day trips that you did? Or was it like similar to that, but now you have your own cell and you know what you're doing?
I still didn't really know what I was doing in the beginning, but I felt more comfortable at least. And then over time, I knew what I was doing after that. But thankfully, I did not get sick at all during the 3-month visit. However, for Holy Week, I ended up getting poison ivy. And it was so, like, when I say it was bad, like, it was really bad. And I was just like, I'm not surprised that I have this for Holy Week.
I hate poison ivy. It's a nightmare. So now what is like your daily routine as a Passionist nun? Like and is it different as when you're in the aspirancy program from what an actual nun does? Yeah, like, okay, so that exactly. Like, so what's the difference in an aspirancy, a postulancy, and then a novitiate? Like, what are the differences? Are your duties different, or it's just your like when do you start like explain, because I
walk
really
us through it.
That. Yeah.
Well, the prayer times all of the sisters take part in. The work assignments vary depending on like if you're in the novitiate or not, and also just like what you're assigned to. Like the general chapter will assign certain sisters to certain things. So as far like usually like the work time is set work time, but we won't all be working together. It depends on what everyone's assigned to. So we wake up at 4:30 a.m. and we have to be down in the chapel for office readings at 4:45. And so we do the office readings, and then we have an hour of just silent prayer that we can stay in the chapel. We can go back to our cell. You can take a walk, whatever you want to do, but it's in silence. Then we come meet back in the chapel for morning prayer and then mass. And then we have mid-morning prayer. After that, we have breakfast.
What time is breakfast?
I think around 8:15.
Okay, so you're up at 4:30.
3.5 hours solid of prayer.
Of prayer. Different kind of prayer. The silence, but it's all prayer, right?
Yeah.
So you're up at 4:30, down in the chapel by 4:45, and you have breakfast at 8:15. So all that time is spent in prayer. Now, how long is breakfast? Half hour, 20 minutes.
Probably like 15, 20 minutes or so, and then you clean your dishes. You usually go back up to your cell, and then I wait until my novice directress she'll knock on my door, and then I would go to her room. She'll give me a blessing to start the day, and then she'll give me my work assignment and tell me what time class is. So either I'll have work first and then class, or class and then work.
Now, what do you learn in class? Like, what are some of the things you study in class?
So when I was just like in the beginning phases, like when I was just coming for like the week or two, I was doing discernment of the spirits. But then when I actually came for the 3-month, we started learning more about like the actual charism, our founder, different things like that.
Okay, and then what is work? Like, what are the work duties, and how long is this period? So you have breakfast, you finish breakfast, and then you either go to work or class, and they could be switched around some days, right? So now, when you're in class, is it just other aspirants in there, or are there other people? Is it just like the people in your group that are in the same phase as you, or is it bigger than that?
Classes for me is just aspirants. I guess because everyone will learn.
They've learned all that already,
yeah,
probably, right? You're learning things they haven't learned yet. Okay. Yeah. So
that's usually 45 minutes to class.
Okay. And then work. What are some of the assignments you get?
I've done sewing, a lot of gardening. It's a lot of like household chores, just like vacuuming, doing dishes, a lot of dusting. We have a retreat house, so we help clean set beds and get it like all prepared for the next retreat. So yeah, it's a lot of things that and during the whole time of working, we're usually in what they call work silence. So it's usually in silence, but if you have like questions, like if you're in the kitchen helping with another sister make different meals and stuff, then you might have to talk a little bit. But
they're asking if you're allowed to have coffee
before breakfast.
I don't know if I would be able to discern with the community without coffee.
Okay. Because some people are like we had Jason from Martyrs walk on, and he was like, you guys are coming for the weekend, there's no coffee, no nicotine, no caffeine, no nothing. I'm like, what? I don't know about that.
We're supposed to kill each other throughout the weekend.
I'll be stuffing Red Bulls in my suitcase. So the prayers like matins, lauds, things like that, or
yeah? So we have
you're playing the liturgy of the hours, right?
The
we
divine
pray
office.
all of the hours for the liturgy of the hours.
You do all of them,
but we don't like. So instead, like some technically, like there are religious orders that will wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we don't do that. We just wake up at 4:30, and
you'll do 2 or 3 in one sitting.
Yeah, well, we'll do the office readings at 4:30 instead of at 3, okay. And so yeah, I mean, it's early, but it's supposed to be like a penitential thing. So
I mean, I get up that time every day.
Yeah.
So okay, so now that work period or class, they're about 45 minutes each.
No, so class is 45 minutes each, and it's 45 minutes, and then the work is like, and sometimes classes like it breaks up in the middle of, like sometimes I'll do work and then class and then
go back to work again.
So
how long is that period between breakfast
and whatever else?
So we start like the class or work at 8:45, and then we go until 12. So at noon we do midday prayer, and then we have lunch, which they actually call dinner, but it's lunch.
Yeah, that was so weird when you told me that.
So that's the way it is around here.
You do that too?
Well, it was more my grandpa's generation. Like my grandpa, you had breakfast, dinner, and then supper.
That's what this is your weird thing. I never heard of this nonsense. I'm like, what about 11sies? Second breakfast. Like, what's going on?
And tea, afternoon tea.
Yeah. So, okay. So she has breakfast, and she's basically working or going to class until 12 o'clock. So, and then, so lunch is what? Same thing, about 20 minutes, a half hour, and then clean up.
About a half hour. And then we all do the dishes in complete silence. All 16 of us just doing the dishes in silence.
So now work is also in silence, right?
Yep.
Okay, and prayer is in silence except for the verbal prayers.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you're up from 4:30 in the morning, and you haven't had a conversation with anybody yet.
At this point, Anthony would be chain smoking, just beside himself.
So if you have a question, you can ask it, but you're not supposed to just have like conversation at this point, right? Like, so the way from 4:30 in the morning until lunchtime, you're really just supposed to be in silent prayer or verbal prayer.
Yeah, I mean, we have I was gonna say in class, like we ask questions and have conversation in there, so we talk a little bit. So maybe
45 minutes. But other than class, you're in silence essentially, right? Yeah. Okay, so now during lunch, do you talk?
We don't. During lunch, we usually have either there's usually like a video that's playing or some spiritual reading. And the videos sometimes are spiritual. We also just like during it, we're watching something on modern homesteading, and it's just like, I guess they're trying to like do their own homesteading there just to,
See, I find that so strange because over a meal is when you have such great bonding conversation. Like, so, like I went out to eat with my son recently, just the two of us. And it's like me and him have, especially looking for his car recently, like we'll sit in the car together and we'll talk, but it's nothing like having a face-to-face conversation over a meal. Right. Like when you're having a meal face to face, it's not the same as like say, because we're in the car, I'm showing him things, videos and things like that. I'm like, oh, you got to hear this, you got to check this out. But having a meal face to face is when you're doing real bonding. Like I'm asking him about like, okay, what do you think you want to do with your life? Things like that. So that's really shocking to me that at lunch you're not talking at this point still. So, but like there's no in-depth conversations up until lunch. So now after lunch, you guys clean up. What do you guys do after lunch?
We have a half hour of optional recreation.
And what does an optional recreation, a half hour of optional recreation look like if you choose it?
Usually the younger sisters will just sit and just talk. Sometimes we'll go outside and talk. Because it's only a half hour, we don't really like do much during that time other than just have conversation with each other. And then, after that, from 1:25 to 2:25, we have an hour of silence.
Maybe an hour? There's been silence the whole day. What's this hour of silence? There's been 8 hours of silence so far.
This hour of silence is like your free time to do whatever you want. Okay. So if you want to work out during that time, if you want to go for a walk, if you want to take a nap, which I do sometimes, whatever you want to do. If you, like, I'm very artistic. Sometimes I work on something like art related. Okay,
so that's from what time to what time?
1:25 to 2:25.
Okay, so now what happens when that's over? I'm so like I can't believe what a day in the life of a cloistered nun. Like none of us know. You don't know what's going on behind those cloisters. You don't know if they don't know what they're doing. So 2:25.
If you work out, do you have to do it in a habit?
They have a workout habit.
Wait, are you?
It is a habit.
Are you in a habit as an aspirant?
I'm in a jumper.
A jumper.
Oh no! For aspirant, I'm just in like regular clothes, but like, like. Wait,
this is one thing she told me. Yeah, so this is one thing she told me. you could tell this, right? About the outfits when you wrote the outfits, you could tell that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when she got there, she had a bunch of outfits with her. What happened with that?
So I brought so I'm thinking I need to, just in the world, we're so spoiled with having a bunch of different outfits and stuff. So I'm thinking I'm gonna be getting changed every day in a different outfit. And so I got there, and the first day, one of the sisters came in there, and she pretty much just picked 2 different skirts for me to wear. And so I had the whole time I wore the same 2 skirts over and over again with just a plain black shirt. And on Sundays I was able to wear a dress.
So now this is because they want you to be as simple as possible. They don't want the other nuns in competition for their cute outfits, right?
Well, it's part of the vow of poverty.
Poverty, right? And it's also so I was asking her, we're gonna get back to her day, but I was asking her about are you allowed to have things on your walls and stuff? But it's you're really trying to deprive yourself of everything, even the joy of beauty. You're trying to deprive, so you don't want, even as an aspirant, they wanted her to just be as plain as possible. Nothing that would make the other sisters go, oh, what's that? That's cute. Something like that. It's you really are taking that vow of poverty and trying to deprive yourself of even the sensation of beauty. So, okay. So it was, I'm sorry, where did we leave off? It was after 2:30. You had, what goes on then?
So after 2:30 on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, we go back down for mid-afternoon prayer. On the other days, we don't do mid-afternoon prayer, so that's the only hour that we don't do. But on those days, we do mid-afternoon prayer, and then we do offerings of the precious blood with our arms extended across for 5 minutes straight. And then
your arms get heavy after 5 minutes.
Yeah,
they really do. Hold your arms out for 5 minutes and see how you do. After 3 minutes, you're ooh.
So those are on those 3 days, and then after that and if we don't have a mid-afternoon prayer, then we would just go straight into this. But the novitiate goes on a novitiate rosary walk together, and then we have a novitiate recreation, and so usually we'll just continue our walk and talk, and sometimes we will still garden anyway, but at least it's not in silence.
All right, so wait, okay, that's what I was gonna say. So all right, so this is an hour period, you said? And it's not on every day, it's on the days of not Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right?
So every day we go for the rosary walk, but okay. So Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday we'll do it after mid-afternoon prayer. Otherwise, after that silence time, we'll just go straight from there.
So now, all right, but you're a rosary walk. You're not having a conversation. You're praying the rosary.
We're praying the rosary.
I'm trying to get to, when do you get to have conversations with your new sister friends, right? So it's okay, so now the rosary walk is what time?
It's at usually 2:35, and then so after the rosary walk, we have recreation, and that would probably be about, I don't know, a half hour or so.
Okay, so where is recreation now? Well, is it in a communal room, or you just go do whatever you want?
It's just novitiate recreation. So since we're outside already with the rosary walk, we usually just continue our walk and talk at the same time, and sometimes do gardening, but we'll do it while talking to each other. Sometimes, there was one day we just flew kites and I don't know, we just do random things sometimes.
So what was strange to me was because I asked you, I'm oh, did you have one sister that you
clicked a friend
with, right? Clicked with, right? And she's we're not allowed to have favorites. So you're really not allowed to have favorites. So you're not allowed to have a best friend there. You I
mean, I don't know if it's not so much that you're not allowed to, but you're not supposed to if you're trying to grow. And it was never said to me per se there, but just from what I know about monastic life and just about growing in holiness, you're really not supposed to have favorites.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So, is there a time where, all right, so you know what, let's just keep going through the day then. Okay, so that's around what, 3:30 we're at now?
Yeah. So then from 3:30, so after that, we have a half-hour study. So during that time, we usually have something that we're assigned, like some kind of book that
Spiritual
we're
reading.
reading. Sometimes it's a workbook. There was one day in the beginning we had, like, I forgot what the book was called. But yeah, it usually, like, the books usually have like study questions with it that we're supposed to answer, and then we'll take it. Sometimes class will be on that, and then sometimes it will be just on like our charism or whatever we were learning.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
a half hour.
That's a half hour. It's so regimented, right? Like every little minute of her day is so regimented. Okay, so you're about what, 5 o'clock at this point?
No, not yet. So that's like 4. And then I usually take a shower after that.
Okay. Oh, so you get a little free time at that point.
Yeah. So 4:45 is evening prayer. So from 4 to 4:45 is like, there's just like open time during that. So I usually just that's like the time that I go take a shower.
Okay. So Teresa, our sister Teresa, has a question. Does the routine of prayer ever feel repetitive or mundane?
Some days, yes, but most days, no. But the days that it does feel routine and mundane, that's when I feel like I'm actually growing the most in holiness.
So we're going to have to get Teresa on one night too, Rob, for Teresa to tell her conversion story. Because my sister, you guys have no idea the miracles that have been going on in my family for the past like 2-3 years of just all the conversions. My brother Joey, my brother Frankie, my sister Teresa, my sister Krissy, my sister Michelle came back to Mass on Sunday. Like, we've just been having these little miracles in our family over the past couple of years that are just, it's like no matter how crazy things get in the church, when you see those things happening in your family, like, you're just so sure of God's presence, you know? So, no, Margot, it's not a traditional Latin Mass, but it's a very reverent Novus Ordo. So, okay.
So then evening prayer is at 4:45.
Okay, so evening prayer is at 4:45, and that's just back to the divine office again.
Yep. And then after that, we have our holy hour. So
is that just Eucharistic adoration?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so.
And that's for an hour.
So that takes us to what, like 6 o'clock?
Yeah, I think it ends at 6:10.
6:10. And then dinner or supper?
Supper.
And then supper. Okay. Now, is there talking during supper?
No. It's again another like movies playing, like
what will you guys
film,
what kind of film? Like, what will you guys watch?
We watched a really great one during like Divine Mercy Sunday, like during that time, on what was it called? It's with Father Gately. I think it's like the world's second greatest story ever told, or something along the lines of that. It was really great. Honestly, you would actually probably really like it.
I'm sure. Is there coffee at supper? Max, like, I'm sleeping now.
I don't know if there's coffee at supper. I don't know. I don't drink coffee at supper.
So, okay. So now after supper, obviously cleanup, right?
Yes.
Is there talking during cleanup?
No.
No talking during cleanup.
And then we have...
I can, you guys have no idea how hard that is for me to grasp. Like, I can understand, like, okay, you can't leave the cloister. I could understand, okay, we do dedicate a lot of time to prayer. I could never handle like this many hours of the day of silence. Like, that is so hard for me.
So think about how you feel about the silence right now, and think about me coming back into the world.
Well, that's what we're going to get to that. No, we're going to get to that.
Well, that's how I feel.
Yeah, we're going to get to that, because the shocking adjustment, like I would imagine it being like, the noise that you come back to has to be incredible. Like, you have to, as difficult as all this sounds, like, I would imagine you have a deep longing and you miss it. Yeah. Right? Like, I would imagine, like, as much as you missed us while you were there, because she wept when she saw us, you know, like, it's like just when she called me on the phone when she left there to come home. Go ahead. You gonna say something?
The weeping was probably just from how loud you were being.
So but just to hear, like, her family's voice was like, you know, and it's funny because my cousin Eddie and Enoch live in Kentucky, right? Like Eddie lives down in Kentucky and the nuns were in Kentucky. So she stopped at Eddie's house before she came home, who I'm always talking about cousin Eddie on here, right? So, well, Teresa, I've done a silent retreat, right? Like I have done a silent retreat. It wasn't 5 days. It was a weekend. I did a weekend long silent retreat and it was insanely difficult. But it was also only a weekend.
I think we should pay Nick to videotape you trying to be quiet for 5 days. I think that would be an amazing something. That would be amazing to put on the
work.
channel.
I wouldn't. I'd have to be somewhere that they had a silent retreat. Like I couldn't do it in my day-to-day life. That would be impossible. But even when I went on the silent retreat, like the first day was so incredibly hard for me. I remember the second day being easier, but the first day was like I couldn't handle it. Like I was just like crawling out of my skin, and I slipped up a few times. I'd be like, I'd like say something to somebody, you know, get yelled at. It was really hard for me. So, okay, so dinner and cleanup are silent.
No, supper.
Sorry. Like,
and then.
Wait, what did he say? Do it, Anthony. It's what's best for the podcast. So, okay. So after supper, you guys, after you're done cleaning up, it's what, 7:00 at that point?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens after dinner?
So then we have an hour of recreation, not silence.
Not silence. So you can talk at this point. So after you eat supper, now so now is recreation alone or
No,
is it in community?
It's in community, and the night one is mandatory, so all of the sisters are there. Like,
so this is where you get to meet the novitiates. This is what, like, not that you meet them, but like really spend time with them and get to know them.
with everyone, yeah.
Do you guys play like games as a group together, or is it clicky?
They
She's not gonna tell us.
They taught
She won't say anything about the sisters. Like I'm wondering if it's clicky. Like, you know, you got the two older nuns who've been there like, you know, 25 years, and all these youngins there around. You know, two older ones are probably off like these kids are.
Well, I'm not clicky for sure.
Yeah.
Like I literally make sure that I'm like with different sisters every night. But we do a bunch of different things. They have a bunch of board games that I've never even played before. They also like sometimes we'll just sit outside and talk. Like, you know, some of the older sisters can't really like do physical things, so sometimes I'll just sit with them and talk with them. Sometimes we'll go outside and have a catch with a frisbee or the football.
They're so freaking adorable. All these nuns having a frisbee catch. They're so cute.
Or flying kites. And
so let me ask you something. During the so the daily mass is just in the morning, right?
Yes.
So now that's open to the public though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the public. So, and now what do you guys have, a wall that separates you from the public?
It's not a full wall.
Like a half wall.
It's a fountain that runs through the entire chapel. That's about the same height as the pews.
So now, if we lived in Kentucky, we could go and see her at daily mass every day, but because we live so far, so I think there's some of the sisters probably have family that lives close, and they see their family a lot more often than she'll see us, right? Like we're in New York, so it's a very, like we were talking, and it's like realistically, it's probably only going to be like maybe me, Joey, and Teresa who go and visit her, you know? And because it's just such a far trip. Like I'll go down and I'll go visit Eddie, and we'll go stop by and go see Krissy for a day, and like we'll do something like that. But my other siblings, it's just like, why they would have to just go to Kentucky to see her, and you don't really get to hang out. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you're just kind of just like seeing each other for an hour or two.
Can't go out on the Bourbon Trail together or anything like that.
Well, so what that looks like with family visits, you actually do get to hang out, thankfully. So we have a parlor. I would not be able to leave the parlor though. Like I can't like go and take walks with my family, but I can actually like, I've never seen anyone ever get denied permission to go and actually go on the other side with their family. So yeah, you get to at least like sit with them, like how I'm sitting.
You can like give
now.
them a hug and stuff like that. So, is it near Louisville?
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably maybe 35 minutes away, I think.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get Mary Andrew. We'll get to that. I'll definitely. Okay,
Well,
so now, all right. So now this is. I'm sorry. Okay,
the
so yeah, is there
Vespers.
Vespers
She
before
already
turning
mentioned
into
they had evening prayer earlier, and that's Vespers. Vespers were before.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vesper. Isn't that evening prayer?
That's evening prayer.
Yeah, that's evening
Yes.
prayer. Yeah.
So
Compline is night prayer.
If she's talking about night prayer, yes, we do that after our hour of recreation. We go in for night prayer, and then we retire for the night. So 8:45, the bells for grand silence go
Wait,
off.
am I saying Louisville wrong?
No, that's pronounced Louisville.
No, it's
Because Margot,
it's pronounced Louisville.
it's pronounced Louis.
If Margot has this wrong, that's gonna be hilarious.
Like she's making fun of me, isn't she?
It's pronounced Louisville.
It is.
They call it Louisville. That's
No.
not Louisville.
No,
Look
it's
how it's
Louisville.
spelled. It's Louisville. Stop it. It's not Louisville, Kentucky. It's Louisville.
And
Louisville.
I don't care if the people that live there call it Louisville. They're wrong.
It's Louisville.
I've always heard it pronounced Louisville.
Louisville.
Shelly's saying Louisville. In the South, it's Louisville. So yeah, Lou's saying it too. Lou's saying Louisville. It's Louisville. Listen to me, guys. Don't get on my pronunciation about that. You guys are lucky. You guys are lucky.
This is one of the few times you're even right. So
and it's like, if you guys get an R out of me, you should be grateful, because every instinct in me is to say aw instead of R. Like, okay, so what time are we at?
Well, we're retired for the night now.
Okay, so after that recreation, then you do. I'm sorry, where did we leave off?
Recreation, and then we have night prayer.
Okay,
and then we retire for the night.
So now you go back to your cell alone.
Yes.
Now in your cell, that's what, like 9 p.m.
So 8:45 is the grand silence bell.
Okay, so now you go back to your cell. Now, will you read when you go back? Will you maybe write a letter to somebody? Like, what do you do when you go back? Do you go right to bed?
I usually we have like a mini chapel upstairs, and that, like, my room is upstairs. So I usually just sit in the mini chapel. And usually I'm by myself, or sometimes like one of the other postulants might come in there. But I usually just sit in there and just kind of give my day back to God for a little while.
Okay, now you have your cell. Do you have your own bathroom, full bathroom, or a half bath? Like, what is in your cell?
I have my own cell, and I have a half bathroom. And then we have upstairs, there's like a shower room with a bunch of stalls in there.
Okay, so but you do have your own at least half bath. So if you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you're not waking all the sisters up walking down the hall and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the typical day in the life of a Passionist nun. Now there's a little variation, right, in the work and the class. Like, they get different jobs and things like that.
Yeah, and also, like, on Fridays and Sundays, the days are different.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so what on Friday? Okay, because Friday's fasting, right?
Friday's fasting, and our day is like, we have a lot of our morning is pretty much our whole morning up until like 4 o'clock is freed for prayer, and then we have our work in the afternoon. Now,
do you have breakfast and dinner, or do you just do supper? Like, you still have breakfast, but obviously no meat on Fridays, right?
We have no meat on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and on all 3 of those days, we have collation, which is just like a light meal.
Oof.
And I think that they do that too because some of the older sisters, they like can't do full fasting, and also because like it's not that you can't fast, but you need permission to fast. Like, even that is like something that you need permission for, because they want to make sure it's actually coming like inspired by God. But yeah.
So now I remember. Okay, now wait. Before we even go to that, because I do have a good question. But what is a Sunday like? Right, like, so Sunday is the Lord's Day, and Sunday is supposed to be a day for leisure and things like that. So what does a Sunday look like?
Before I say that, one other thing about Fridays, probably like my favorite thing. So throughout the week, we're encouraged to pray the Stations of the Cross on our own. But on Fridays, we pray it together as a community. And like, I always just love doing that. So we do that usually in the morning. So then on Sundays, we do have a lot more leisure time. We don't have any work or class on Sundays.
Do you still have to wake up at 4:30?
We wake
Like, is there
instead of at 4:45, at 5:15 we have more office readings.
So it's like, if you think about,
so a half hour.
You think about like how much I look forward to the weekend of not having to wake up early, like, because I go to bed late. I mean, she's obviously not going to bed late, but like during the week, I mean, we're going to finish this show. It'll be close to 10 o'clock, and then I'll go upstairs and I'll be playing around to see how many people watched it, and things like that. And it's like
text messages from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna want to. Plus, I'll have to go through 800 text messages from Mark and Jason.
You'll have to argue with one or two people on Twitter.
Absolutely, I'm probably gonna have to tell Thursday from Matt Frad show off again, and
or call down the wrath of church militant upon us.
Yeah, we'll have to pick a fight with somebody before bedtime. So by the time I go to bed, it's 11, and I'm waking up at 4. Right, so I'm getting 5 hours of sleep a night on a good night. 5 hours. So my weekends mean everything to me. So it's like for her on a Sunday, she's like, "Oh yeah, we get an extra half an hour." Gosh.
Yeah, but that's like, I usually get like a little over 7. I would get probably like 7.5 hours during the week. So like,
if they're going to bed at 9.
You're going to bed by 10 even, right? You go to like 9. Really, you got to be asleep.
I go to bed usually by 9.
I've never fallen asleep at 9 in my life. Okay, so now,
although I've heard that that's very hard and unlikely to do when you're not in the novitiate. So I don't know if that's gonna be later on, but as in the novitiate, I should be able to go to bed by 9.
So now, since you're home, do you still wake up early? Well, that even before, forget that. Like, okay, so now how? Because you don't want to completely fall out of this structure, right? Like, you can't just come home and go back to like, that's it, I'm back to regular life. Like, you have to still set aside time aside for prayer and things like that. So since being home, have you like set any kind of structure up to make sure that you're up early? I mean, it's pretty quiet at Mom's now, right? There's nobody else there but you guys.
It's usually pretty quiet, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like my mom's house in the afternoon is like Grand Central Station. Is I have 8 siblings. We're all stopping by with our kids, things like that. So, but I would imagine in the morning it's pretty quiet there still, right? And mom's obviously sitting in her prayer chair. My mom, no matter when you go to my mom's house, you open that door and she's sitting in the same chair. Yep. She's got her Bible open, or she's got her spiritual reading that she's reading.
Probably watching this.
She's literally watching this in that chair right now, and she's sitting there.
Another about to confirm. We need confirmation.
My mom, you go there no matter what, and she's sitting there with a book in front of her, and she's, "Hi, Aunt," and she's either praying or reading something spiritual anytime you go there. So, okay, so yeah, so what do you set? Like, have you been waking up early and making sure you set time aside to at least do some kind of prayer?
I know that I'm not gonna. I'm not
making fun of you, Mom.
I know that I'm not gonna wake up like I want to enjoy myself while I'm in the world. I know I'm not being like super strict with myself, but I do still wake up pretty early. Like, so there's an hour time difference. So I'm waking up at like 6:37 here, which would be 5:36 over there. So I am sleeping in, but
you still have time set aside for prayer, though, right? Like you're.
Yeah. I wake up in the morning and I usually do morning prayer. I'm trying to stick to doing morning prayer one of the afternoon hours, and then night prayer, evening prayer and night prayer. And then, so the only thing is, so I get very like, because of all the silence and just the way that it's like everything's structured there. Coming back in the world, it's like very, very difficult for me to pray. And so literally the only place that I could really pray is like sitting outside. So I've been going outside and praying outside a lot more, because I used to do it in my room, and like just like hear me out for a second, but like I tried praying in my room, and I have all these like pictures and statues, and I like just had an urge to just rip it all down and like just like smash it on the floor, which I did not do that. So, but it's just that
it's too noisy.
It's noisy, and like I just felt like I just like desired God himself, and it was just a weird, I was looking at it and I was like, this isn't God. Like I want actually God, not like these pictures, and like this isn't God.
Yeah, like for us, so like for the typical lay person, the statue is supposed to lead our hearts to God, but for somebody who has a deep prayer life, that could be distracting. Right. It's a matter of how much time we're able to devote to prayer. And I would think for the typical layperson, like to me, my favorite place to pray the rosary is in the back by the waterfall with the Mary statue, just because I feel like I'm in her presence when I'm by the statue. But I would think for you, because you're so used to that bare minimum like aesthetic, that to come home to it's noisy, even though it's not words, it's noisy, I would imagine, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now she told me something about understanding the difference in men and women's role. That why don't you get into that a little bit, Chris? Because I remember you telling me like you were having a hard time seeing that the priests get to do, like the Passionist priests have a very different life than the Passionist nuns. So why don't you get into that a little bit?
Did you still want to know about Sunday?
Oh yeah. We didn't even get into Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very distracted, guys.
It's okay. But with Sundays, so we do have like our morning is still in prayer. We do wake up a little bit later, but then we don't have any like class or work time, and so we actually will we have I forgot what it's called, maybe scripture study, but it's we will read the Sunday's readings, like all of the readings, and then we'll get together and just talk about the readings, and then we'll have a little bit of free time after that. Some of the sisters will like prepare for meals, and like we might help out in the kitchen a little bit, just because Sunday is like feast day, so the meals are usually
a little bit heavy, a little bit bigger and celebratory.
And then pretty much we still have all the prayer times set for the day, and so pretty much after lunch we just go into recreation for that entire afternoon.
Yeah, me and Kennedy, yes, my family does call it sauce, Kennedy. We do not call it gravy. I don't understand why people call it gravy. It is Sunday sauce. I'm very glad that we're on the same team with that one, Kennedy. So now Sunday is, you do get to spend more quality time with the sisters and getting to know one another, I would imagine, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when you have your real best friend that you won't tell anybody is your best friend. Because Krissy doesn't have favorites. I would totally have a favorite. So okay, so now the difference in the
you'd also have like an arch enemy too.
Oh yeah. I'd be getting them to argue. Like, can you believe that one's doing that? I'd be
you're not supposed to talk right now.
So the difference in the Passionist priests and the Passionist nuns, you were telling me, like you told me, like, I don't know if you want me to share this, but like you said you like there was a little jealousy at first, right?
Yeah. So when I don't know if it was really jealousy, but like kind of, I guess I was just like, why do the priests get to go out and like they do, like, I don't know, I guess
they do preach.
They're not missions, but they do preach. And I was just like, why do they get to do that? And like, not the nuns. but like when I started like really contemplating that, I started realizing like the role of man and woman, and how the men are supposed to like be, and I'm sure, well, hopefully no one in this audience,
doesn't matter.
but
We say what we say.
The role of a man is just supposed to be to go out and provide for the family, and then the role of the woman is to stay home and to care for the children.
Misogyny.
Well, look, you don't want to offend people, the women that have to go out and work and stuff, but it's still, there's something profound about what she's realizing in that, right? Like,
yep.
Okay, so the Passionist priests, they're not in a cloister, and that they're not allowed to leave or anything. Like, they're allowed to go on preaching. I mean, like she said, it's not a mission like you're going into Africa, but it's a mission. Like, you get to go and preach and give the sacraments to people and things like that. So
I think the Passionist priests now are becoming more missionary than they used to be, and we do have a couple of Passionist priests out there that are trying to bring it back to how our founder is St. Paul the Cross. So they're trying to bring it back to how, like, his vision of what it was. Because St. Paul the Cross, not to be confused with St. John of the Cross, but St. Paul of the Cross, he still wanted, even for the priests, for their main apostolate to be prayer, and to be very contemplative. But yeah, in many ways, it's kind of lost that a little bit. So
I'm going to ask a question that, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Is there any apprehension on your part seeing what some of the other orders are going through from the hierarchy? Is that
You're thinking of the specific one, but
not even them, because I think they're a special case with their bishop.
Yeah.
But I'm talking just in general from the hierarchy. The hierarchy seems to, like, is there any apprehension on your part or worry that this order will be affected, or do you think that this order is okay, and like that they're loved in their diocese, and that?
I can't really say for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be affected. But I can't say that they're going to be okay as far as not being attacked, but I am hoping that we will be okay and standing strong if that does happen. And
a lot, I would imagine a lot of it is just trusting that God called you to this vocation, and whatever suffering comes from that, you're willing to endure it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, now there were a couple of prayer instances that you had while you were there that I don't know. Are you willing to share anything from your journal or any experiences that you think might, maybe help somebody with something in there? I don't know, whatever you feel comfortable. I don't want to put you on the spot. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, you could share with us.
Okay. I'm going to share about Hosea 2, just because I really love that scripture, and also it just really spoke to me while I was there.
Can I give the little bit of scriptural background to Hosea before you get into that?
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody that doesn't know, Hosea is a prophet, and God makes him marry a prostitute, and his children are named Not My People, and what is the other? I forgot the other name, but imagine Hosea calling out at dinner time for his children, Not My People. And God makes him marry a prostitute so that Hosea can experience what God feels like when Israel commits idolatry, because God always compares idol worship to adultery. Like that, because Israel is his spouse, and when Israel commits adultery, when Israel commits idol worship, it feels like adultery. So God tells Hosea, "You will marry a prostitute," and he marries her, and he loves her, and she's having affairs with other men. So that's the scriptural background to Hosea. So, right? I'm right on that, right? Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're all wondering now how that relates to me, but when I came there, just like in the very beginning, especially, but really like throughout it, when I got there, I was just being stripped of everything. Like you're in silence, and just like you don't realize how much you take advantage of when you're in the world. Just little things. Just like, yeah, I don't know. Just the fact that you can just get in your car and like just take a drive somewhere, or like if you need medicine, you can just go up the street and go get it. Or if you even need, like, I don't know, something simple like lotion, you can just like go and grab it. And even just like all the little things that you like and are just like right in your reach that you have at your disposal all the time. And all of that is just like taken away from you. And of course, like the biggest thing was like not being able to talk to my family at all, like right from the start, because it was Lent. And I was just felt like I was just being stripped of everything, and realizing how much, like, all the disordered affections that I had towards things and towards people, and just realizing how important it is to detach from everything.
And also a fiance, and also like basically you were chasing for things that weren't God, right? Mm. Like she was chasing for satisfaction outside of God. And part of that was being engaged to somebody, and part of that was things like that. So I was just trying to summarize a little bit, yeah. Right? Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's like the bigger things, but even like the smaller things have such an impact on you too. Like the fact that like you can't eat whatever you want. Like you have to just eat whatever's in front of you. And like even on like feast days when there's ice cream, it's like, well, they don't have the ice cream that it's my favorite ice cream.
It's like you're getting like,
you know? So and it's like, it sounds so like selfish to even say something like that, but like those are just like all the little things that you have to just learn to like be stripped of. And that's like what was happening to me while I was there, is I was just being stripped of all of it.
So before she even reads this now, remember when Eric Salmons came on with us and he gave that little advice, like as a penance, when you go out to eat,
order order what they order, or order your second favorite thing, or
yeah, just get used to not getting your favorite thing, because it is a penance. Like you don't realize, like we're so used to, especially in modern life, right? Like we just get what we want when we want. We have such an instant gratification culture, especially with phones now and Amazon that gets ordered. It's like, it really is a good penance to, if you go out to eat, if you're married, whatever your wife orders, you just get what she gets. Or the person, you know, if you're out with a friend, whatever he gets, you just, even, especially if you don't like it. So, but go ahead, Chris, you can read what you had.
So I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's just pretty long, but I'll read like the more important part. Because the beginning part of it anyway is kind of just summarizing Hosea 2, which he already did. So then I wrote in it, so this is from my journal that I wrote there. Is this not what the Lord, my one true lover, doing to me? He has taken me to the wilderness of this cloister and has stripped me of all my loves. He has exposed even some of the lovers that I didn't know I had. He has killed me with thirst, which started with thirst for those lovers, but turned into a thirst for God. He has hedged my way with the thorns of Jesus' crown, and he has built a wall against me, quite literally, in the cloister. I tried to revisit those lovers of mine with no success, for the Lord uncovered my shame in a most tender and forgiving way, by leading me into the desert of my heart and speaking tenderly to me while giving me a door of hope. He has shown me who was the provider of all these things I took advantage of, and made my heart grateful for them. He has taken me as his wife in righteousness, justice, mercy, steadfast love, and faithfulness. So that's pretty much what Hosea 2 talks about. Just like how like taking her into the desert and stripping her of everything and uncovering all of her shame. And then from that place and like hedging her way with thorns, and like that's literally how I felt when I was there. I felt like I was being taken into the wilderness, into this desert, and being stripped of everything. And even like my sin, just all my sins were like uncovered, and like they were just laid bare right in front of me, like it's completely exposed.
It's really it's why laity have such a harder time understanding like what it really is to go into a cloister is literally going and being stripped of everything and being naked before God. Like that's really what you're going to do in a cloister. And it's why I really think that the prayers of the monasteries and the prayers of the convents are what are still holding the world together at this time. As crazy as things are and they're falling apart, it's such an important vocation that there are still cloistered nuns. And honestly, guys, like Krissy, how old are you?
28.
So Krissy's 28. I'm 41. She's 13 years younger than me. I changed her diapers. I did her homework with her when she was little. Like she was a baby. Like so my mom, we have 8 siblings, right? So my parents it was the 4 older ones. And then there was an 8-year gap between my brother, Mikey, who's younger than me, and my brother, Joey. So the 4 older were almost like parents to the younger kids, right? Like my mom had so much on her hands. So we would always help my mom. I remember we would go to church and the 4 older would all have a kid in their arms. And there would be 5 little ones, and the 4 older ones would have a kid, and my mom would have a kid. And every time we'd leave mass, my mom, without fail, somebody would come up to my parents and say, "Your children were so well behaved at mass." And my mother trudged all 9 of us to mass by herself for a very long time. But Krissy has a little bit of a ways to go still, and there's a lot of things that are hard to donate to in the church these days. This is not one of them. Like, this is really not one of them. If you guys have anything in you to please help her, so she doesn't just have her school debt, like she has to get some dental work done and stuff. So we really want to make it so that she has nothing to worry about when she goes. I wanted her to share her story. She didn't ask to come on. I'm trying to do everything I can for my little sister to help her out as much as I can, though. So if you guys really do have it in you, it would mean so much to me to be able to give my little sister a gift to help her in any way that we can. Chris, is there anything else you thought you wanted to share with everybody?
I can share one more thing, but I just want to say thank you for everyone who already has donated to me. And also, like, there was one day that I don't even know if I told you this, but I got a voicemail from someone, and I'm sorry that I couldn't make out the name. Otherwise, I would thank you personally. But if you're out there, I just want to say thank you to you. But I was literally crying when I heard the voicemail because, like, it wasn't a voicemail saying, "Oh, I'm going to be praying for you." It was a voicemail of them praying for me, like right then on the voicemail. And like that would just blew my mind away that someone would call just to pray right there, then and there. So thank you.
And it's also, she has been praying for everybody that donated. And I really so what I was saying is that I went from being this, older brother, father figure to her to when she came home, literally her being like a spiritual mother to me and teaching me things that I don't care how many books I've read. I don't care how much I think I know my scripture. Like the couple of journal entries she read to me just made me realize how much I'm lacking in my prayer life and how much I really like. Teresa was even saying, "Anthony, you need to shut up and do some silence time." Like, it really is so important to have that time. And I don't put enough of it aside. So, yeah, I'm honestly, I'm so happy that like we had so many people in the chat. I wasn't sure how many people would actually stick around for this, but I think this is one of our best episodes. Like, you're getting a glimpse into something that you don't get to all the time. It's someone I trust with my entire heart. It's not, it's like, it's not somebody that I think is putting anything on. Like, I'm telling you guys that she's just going on an amazing journey, and I want to try to help her in any way that I can. So,
And Margot, I don't have a specific date yet, but it's going to be at the end of August or beginning of September.
So when she goes at the end of August, beginning of September, that's the last time she'll ever be home. Like there's no more 3-month trip. When she goes in August or September, like this is her last summer home with her family. Like that is going to be one of the most difficult things for. So it's not just her that's giving us up. Like we're giving her up, right? Like my mom is going to be devastated. Like this is her and my mom are best friends. Like they're home together every day. My mother was a nervous wreck while she was gone. And I'm sure part of my mother was hoping she did not have this call to this vocation, but it seems that she does. And it's not like she goes in and makes permanent vows yet, right? Like what's the vow process? How does that work? So you go back in as a postulant, and then how long is the postulancy? Then when does the novitiate start? And then when do vows start?
So I'll be a postulant for a year, and then I would be, obviously if I'm accepted, and then a novice for 2 years, and then I would start and I think I explained it wrong in the last video, but then, so after novice for 2 years, I would start making temporary vows. The first one is for 3 years, and then I'll make another one for a year, another one for a year, and then I make the perpetual.
Okay. There's something I do have to say about my mom. Not one of us in my family would have our faith without my mom. Like I tell like all of my siblings, like one day you'll be before God and he will say to you, I gave you a saint for a mother. How did you not see? Like my God gave me a mother so much like his own. It's unbelievable. Like he gave me a mother just like his own. And I never would have understood Mary's role without my own mother. So any mothers out there, like don't ever, like we talk so much about the father's role and how important the father's role is. You have no idea how important your role is as a mother. And even for you single women, as a spiritual mother, like even if you're not able to have children, or even if you haven't found a wife yet, like every person you encounter, you are a spiritual father or mother to. And it is a very important thing that I've really come to understand very recently. And a lot of it had to do with that vacation, that little trip I took with my wife, and really starting to see that every conversation we have has meaning. So if anything that you guys get from this conversation is that deeper prayer, and don't ever underestimate the importance of your words to people. I really had a great conversation tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed this one.
I think you got about half the chat crying right now, you guys. At least Mark, for sure.
Yeah, it's just like I've just seen so many miracles in my family in the past couple of years they're all due to my mother and her prayers and her suffering on our behalf. So, guys, if you can, please help out. And me and Rob really, like, we don't ask for much. Like, we really try not to grift if we can't, if we don't have to. It's just when I know there's a good cause, I will ask for it. And I would love to be able to, by the end of the summer, have my sister be able to walk in carefree without a dollar of debt. So if you guys can, please help out. Rob, do you have anything you wanted to touch on before we go?
Do you mind if I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for, even if there's no one in the like watching it right now, just for the future, if anyone who is like discerning cloistered life and is just like scared about it, like that's completely normal. Like I was terrified of the thought of never like ever seeing the world again and never seeing my family again. But over time, I've come to see how like the world's view of freedom, and how it just seems so crazy to other people. Like it seems like we're giving up our freedom when we're going into a cloister, because we're not able to, like, the world's view is like you're to be able to go where you want, do what you want, have what you want. But like real freedom is just to be content with where you are and with what you're doing and with what you have. And if in the cloister you feel that you're content with what you're doing and with what you have and with where you are in each and every moment, then that's really all that matters.
Well, I'm going to hang out with my sister for a little bit before I go to bed. Guys, please share this video too, because this was actually like a really good episode. Like before we came on, I was saying to Krissy, I'm like, oh, my brain is just so shot right now. Like I had such a hard day at work today, like a really hard day at work today. I got home about 20 minutes before the show was supposed to start. So I'm like, Rob, push the show off a half an hour. I barely ate dinner. It was a really, really hard day. I sat in like 2.5 hours of traffic coming home, and I was really worried I wasn't going to even know what questions to ask. But it's really strange. Like every time we turn that camera on, God gives me the strength to get through the episode, man. I'm telling you. It's pretty funny. So, guys, yeah, please share it. Thank you guys for joining us. Rob, you want to take us out?
Good thing.